She said, "If you send that DNA kid in, I'm divorcing you. Some family secrets should stay buried." I replied, "Okay." It came out of her like it had been practiced in a mirror. Calm, clean, and timed to land right when my fingers were on the little white box. The box wasn't romantic. It wasn't even clever. It was just something I bought on a Tuesday because Christmas was coming, and I'd been feeling sentimental in that pathetic, married man way, like you can glue two people together with a shared surprise. Mara stood in the kitchen doorway, coat already on, hair already done, phone already in her hand like it was part of her skeleton. The overhead light caught the shine on her nails. Perfect. Unscarred. Like nothing in her life ever got dirty. "Why would that be a problem?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. She lifted her chin a fraction, the way she did when she'd decided you were about to be taught something. "Because," she said, "we don't dig. Not in my family." "My family," I said, because that's what I still believed it was. Her eyes flicked to the hallway, where our daughter's little shoes sat in a crooked pile. She lowered her voice like the shoes could hear. "Some things are better left alone," she said. "If you mail that in, I'm done. I mean it, Ethan." There was a decade in the way she said my name, a decade of me being the soft place she leaned on while she stood tall for the world. A decade of her deciding what was true in this house, and me being grateful she let me live inside it. I nodded. I smiled even. It was the kind of smile that makes your face hurt because it's not connected to anything inside you. "Okay," I said. Mara's shoulders loosened like she'd just won a small war. She stepped forward, kissed my cheek, and I smelled her perfume, the one that always reminded me of expensive soap and clean lies. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Thank you," she said. "You're being mature." When she left, the house settled into the quiet noises it made when it thought nobody was listening. The fridge ticking, the ductwork breathing, the floorboards doing their slow old house sigh. I set the DNA kit on the table and stared at it like it was a trap. Then I opened it anyway. Not out of spite, not at first, out of stubborn curiosity, out of the same dumb faith that makes a man believe the truth will act like a parent. Stern but fair, something you can survive. I filled the tube. I sealed it. I wrote my name in block letters, the way I do on incident reports at work when I'm trying not to miss a detail. I didn't tell Mara. I mailed it the next morning on my way to the distribution center, while the sky was still the color of old dishwater and the city looked half-finished. The clerk slid it into the outgoing bin without looking at me. That was the last normal thing I did for a while. That night, Mara came home and acted like nothing had happened. She asked what I wanted for dinner. She laughed at something on her phone. She told our daughter to brush her teeth and sang the stupid little jingle she always sang. I watched her mouth move and thought, "You're good at this." I went to bed with the taste of her threat still in my mouth, like I'd bitten a coin. The email came 4 days later. Subject: Your results are ready. I didn't open it at first. I stared at it while my office printer spit out shipping labels and my phone buzzed with routine nonsense. I stared at it until the words stopped being letters and became a sound, like a doorbell in the distance. I told myself I would open it at home after dinner when the kid was asleep. I told myself that because I still believed that if you schedule a disaster, it will show up politely. I opened the email in my car, alone, parked beneath the buzzing fluorescent lights of the warehouse lot. The results loaded slow, like the internet wanted to give me one last chance to turn back. Then a little chart appeared. A few percentages. A red warning banner that felt ridiculous on a phone screen, like the app was trying to whisper. And then the line that made my hands go cold. Parent-child relationship not supported. At first I didn't understand. That's the trick of the first punch. The brain tries to pretend it was a joke, a typo, a wrong account. I refreshed. Same line. I logged out. Logged in. Same line. I scrolled. I stared. I scrolled again like the words might rearrange themselves if I was patient. Then I saw a suggested match. Close family. First cousin. Name. Grant Harlow. My cousin. My mother's sister's only son. The one who used to sleep over in our basement as kids and steal my cereal and call it equalizing. The one who wore a suit now and shook hands like he was running for something. The one Mara always called fun. My chest didn't explode. My head didn't spin. Nothing dramatic happened. Instead, the world got very small, like someone had turned down the oxygen. I sat there in the car and listened to the warehouse hum, forklifts in the distance, a semi's engine coughing, somebody laughing near the loading dock. I should have screamed. I should have punched the steering wheel like men do in movies. I didn't. I laughed once. Quiet. Not because it was funny, because my body didn't know what else to do. Then I did the first logical thing I'd done in days. I called a family law attorney. Not Mara, not my mom, not my best friend. I called someone whose job it was to live in the messy space between truth and consequences. The attorney's name was Laura Finch. Her voice had the tired steadiness of somebody who'd heard every kind of betrayal and still had to pay her mortgage. Home DNA tests aren't court-proof, she told me after I explained in short sentences what the app had said. But it's a signal. If you want to move forward, we do a legal paternity test through an accredited lab, and we talk about strategy. Strategy, I repeated. You're married, she said. That matters. You're presumed the legal father. Custody and support can get complicated if you disestablish paternity. You need to decide what you want. For the child. For you. My daughter was 6. She liked strawberry yogurt, hated socks with seams, and believed I could fix anything because I could open any jar. I didn't stop being her dad because a chart told me I wasn't her father by biology. I'm not leaving her, I said. Good, Laura said. Then we build around that. But you need evidence the right way. No threats, no stupid moves. You hear me? Yes, I said, and meant it. After the call, I drove home like a man coming back from a medical appointment where the doctor's face gave away the news before their mouth did. Mara was in the living room when I walked in, legs folded under her, laptop on her lap, smile ready. You're late, she said. Shift ran long, I said. She didn't question it. She didn't even look up. She trusted my boringness. She trusted that I would always have an excuse that didn't change her life. Our daughter ran to me and wrapped her arms around my waist. Her hair smelled like the cheap shampoo Mara bought in bulk. Daddy, she said, can you read the Wolf book tonight? Yeah, I said. My throat felt tight. Yeah, I can. That night, when Mara went upstairs to shower, her phone lit up on the couch. A notification flashed across the screen. No password. She'd always said she didn't believe in marriage privacy. That was her word for it. Like a slogan. Grant. You good? 2 words. 2 casual little stones dropped into the pond. I stared at them until the screen went dark. I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. The truth was already moving through my house like smoke. In the days after the email, I became a man with 2 lives. In one life, I went to work, managed schedules, handled angry drivers, fixed broken conveyor belts, and drank burnt coffee from a paper cup. In the other life, I watched my wife like she was a stranger renting a room in my home. Mara had tells. I'd never noticed because love is a kind of blindness you pay extra for. She checked the mirror more when she was lying. Not vanity, control. She talked about the future louder when she was covering the past. Trips we should take, a kitchen remodel, a new couch, like she could build a wall out of plans. She asked me questions and didn't wait for the answers. Did you see that email from the school? She'd say, already scrolling. Did you pay the water bill? She'd say, already walking away. And every time she said we, it sounded like a brand, not a team. I scheduled the legal paternity test. I went alone. The lab was in a medical plaza next to a dentist and a place that sold orthotics. Ordinary, clean, fluorescent. The kind of place where life-changing things happen in rooms that smell like disinfectant. A nurse swabbed my cheek. Another swab for my daughter, with her permission, and a lollipop afterward, because nobody wants to be the villain in a child's memory. "Why are we doing this?" she asked me, wide-eyed. "Because sometimes grown-ups need to check a detail," I said, "like when I check the label on a box at work." "Is it a secret?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "For now." She accepted that, because kids accept what you say if your voice doesn't shake. Then I needed Grant's sample. Laura Finch had explained the options: subpoenas, court orders, time. But she'd also said, people make mistakes when they think they're safe. So I waited. 3 nights later, Mara hosted her little wine group in our kitchen. 4 women, sharp hair, sharp laughs, sharp opinions. The kind of friends who called themselves brutally honest, like it was a virtue. Mara wanted to be seen as the woman with the nice house, the steady husband, the charming kid, the life that looked like it belonged in a holiday catalog. Grant showed up late, like he always did. He brought a bottle of red wine with a label nobody could pronounce and kissed Mara on both cheeks like they were in a movie set in Paris. "Ethan," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "My man." His palm pressed into my shirt, friendly and heavy. "Grant," I said. He smelled like cologne and expensive gum. Up close, he looked older than I remembered. Small lines around his eyes. A stress crease between his brows. A man who'd been pretending for a long time. The women laughed at his jokes. Mara's eyes shone at him a beat too long. At some point, Grant used our bathroom. He left his glass on the counter. Just there. Lipstick on the rim where Mara had tasted it just to be cute. Then Grant drank from it. Then he walked away. People hand you the rope all the time. Most of the time you don't notice because you're not planning to use it. I washed the glass alone. I didn't scrub it hard. I wasn't angry enough for that. I was focused. Late that night, when everyone was gone, I put the glass in a paper bag and drove it to the lab drop-off box that the clinic used for off-hours specimens. Laura Finch didn't ask how I got it. She just said, "Good, that'll save us weeks." I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a man crossing a line he'd never imagined crossing, one small step at a time. At home, Mara climbed into bed and curled against me like a cat claiming territory. "You've been quiet lately," she said into my shoulder. "Just tired," I said. She hummed. "You work too much." I stared into the dark and thought, you don't know what work is. The legal results took 7 business days, which is a fancy way of saying the truth didn't care about my insomnia. When the envelope arrived, it wasn't an email. It was paper. It was weight. I sat at the kitchen table with the envelope in my hands while Mara packed our daughter's lunch in the next room. The house smelled like peanut butter and laundry detergent. I opened it. The report was blunt, like it had no interest in my feelings. Probability of paternity: 99.99%. Grant Harlow, my cousin. My wife moved behind me. I felt her presence before I heard her. "You're up early," she said, reaching for the coffee pot. I slid the report into my work folder and closed it like I was shutting a book I wasn't ready to finish. "Couldn't sleep," I said. Mara poured coffee, sipping like she was tasting a review. "You should take a day off." "I can't," I said. She shrugged. "Suit yourself." She said it casually, but her eyes studied me. Mara was always studying. She'd made a career out of reading people and rewriting them. I needed one more piece. I needed the timeline, the why, the shape of the lie. That piece came from Aunt Rita. Rita was my mother's sister, Grant's mom. She was the kind of woman who thought gossip was a form of community service. She lived in a ranch house with too many holiday decorations and too many opinions. She called me on a Saturday morning. Ethan, she said, voice bright. You coming to the reunion next weekend? Yes, I said. We'll be there. Good, she said. Your mother's so excited, and I'm excited because I found those old photos. You know, from the summer Grant stayed with you all? The one when Mara visited your mom's barbecue? You remember that? My grip tightened on the phone. Mara didn't visit that summer, I said carefully. We weren't even dating yet. Rita laughed. Oh, honey, yes she did. She came with Grant. Don't you remember? She had that little sundress. Everyone said she was cute as a button. I stared at the wall like it might offer a handrail. Rita, I said, what year was that? Oh, I don't know, she said. Before you two got serious, before the wedding, it was maybe 8 years ago. 8 years ago. Our daughter was 6. My stomach didn't flip. It didn't jump. It just sank, slow, like a stone in dark water. What's funny, Rita kept going, is how Grant used to tease that you'd marry her. Like it was a joke, like, oh, never mind, family talk, family talk. I thanked her. I hung up. I sat in the quiet and listened to my own breathing. Mara came into the room, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Who was that? She asked. Aunt Rita, I said. Mara smiled. Rita loves me. I looked at my wife and realized something simple. She wasn't afraid of me, not even a little. The reunion was held at a rented hall outside town, the kind with beige walls and folding chairs, and a smell like old coffee trapped in carpet. Our family did reunions like they did everything else, loud and sentimental and full of food that tasted like childhood and regret. Mara wore a pale blue dress that made her look harmless. Grant wore a crisp button-down and the kind of watch that said he had money now. My mother hugged Mara first. My mother always hugged Mara first. My girl, Mom said, squeezing her. You look beautiful. Mara laughed. Stop, you'll make me cry. I watched it like a man watching a play after he'd read the script. I kept my folder close. Inside it, the legal report, the divorce petition, the custody filing, and a letter from Laura Finch with instructions on what to say and what not to say. I wasn't here to rant. I wasn't here to beg. I was here to detonate something clean. Dinner happened. People ate. People told old stories. Someone played music too loud on a speaker. Kids ran in circles. Mara stayed near Grant more than she stayed near me. Not touching, not openly, just always within the same gravitational pull. My daughter sat on my lap and fed me pieces of a cookie, laughing like the world was simple. At dessert, my uncle stood up and tapped a spoon against a glass. Family, he said, we don't do this enough. People clapped. People cheered. Someone shouted, Amen. I stood up next. At first, nobody noticed. I wasn't the loud one. I wasn't the comedian. I wasn't the cousin who traveled or the aunt who sang karaoke. I was the steady one, the reliable one, the boring one. The room kept talking for a second, then quieted as people realized I was on my feet. Mara's smile froze, just slightly, like a camera shutter stuck. I held the folder in my left hand. In my right, I held a thin stack of papers. Divorce papers. I didn't wave them. I didn't slam them down. I just held them like they were mail. I'm not good at speeches, I said. My voice sounded normal to my ears. That surprised me. A few people chuckled, expecting a joke. I'm going to keep this simple, I said. Mara's eyes were locked on me. Grant stared at the floor. I looked at my mother, because I needed her to hear the question before anyone answered it for her. Then I looked at Mara. Which one of you decided I was the kind of man who wouldn't check? I asked quietly. The silence after that wasn't movie silence. It was worse. It was people trying to understand if they'd heard right, and not wanting to be the first to admit they did. Mara's mouth opened, then closed. Grant lifted his head. His face had gone pale in a way that made his tan look fake. What are you talking about? My uncle said, laughter shaky. I held up the legal report and let it hang there. Not high, just visible. Mara told me if I sent in a DNA kit, she'd divorce me, I said. So I sent it in. Gasps rippled. Somebody whispered a name. Somebody's chair scraped. Our daughter, I said, and my throat tightened, but my voice stayed steady, is not mine by biology. Mara made a small sound, like a laugh trying to pretend. This is insane, she said. Ethan, stop. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? I asked. Then I turned to Grant. And she's not yours by accident, I said. So here's what I want to know, Grant. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the beige wall. How long have you been sleeping with my wife? I asked. The room reacted like a body reacts to ice water. A jerk, a gasp, a recoil. Mara stepped toward me. Don't, she hissed, voice thin. Not here. Here is exactly where, I said. Grant's lips moved. No sound. My mother made a sound behind me, a small, wounded noise I'd never heard from her before. Mara tried to grab the papers from my hand. I stepped back, just enough to make her reach and miss. Sign, I said, holding out the petition. Or don't. It's filed. Her eyes flashed. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm just stopping. Grant finally found his voice. Ethan, man, listen. No, I said. You listen. You're going to answer questions, both of you. My uncle moved like he was going to step between us. My aunt reached for Mara. My mother stared at Grant like he'd turned into a stranger in her own family photos. The room fractured in real time, little groups forming, whispers starting, eyes darting, people choosing sides before they even knew the whole story. And in the middle of it, Mara's phone buzzed in her purse. She glanced down, then up at me, and something in her face shifted. Not shame, fear, because she realized I wasn't finished. The reunion broke apart fast after that, not officially. People stayed and pretended to eat, but the air changed, the walls felt closer. Mara tried to corner me by the bathrooms, her eyes sharp and wet at the same time. Let's talk in the car, she said through her teeth. No, I said. You're ruining my life, she whispered. You built it like this, I said. I'm just reading it out loud. She slapped my arm. Not hard. Not enough to leave a mark. Just enough to remind me she still thought physical contact was a tool. Grant hovered nearby, pretending to look for his keys, pretending he wasn't listening. I leaned toward Mara and spoke low so only she could hear. You threatened divorce because you thought the truth would scare me, I said. You misjudge the kind of fear I can live with. Her eyes widened. What do you want? I looked past her at Grant. I want him to look at me, I said, when I talk to him. Grant's jaw tightened. He glanced around like he expected someone to save him. Tonight, I said, you're going to meet me at the Ridgeview parking structure, top level, 10 o'clock. Mara shook her head fast. No, absolutely not. This isn't a negotiation, I said. Grant scoffed, trying to reassemble his pride like broken glass. You can't summon me, Ethan. I smiled. It felt strange, like wearing someone else's face. Then don't come, I said. And tomorrow I walk into your office and talk to your business partner about why your phone is full of messages from my wife. Grant's color drained again. He came. At 10 o'clock, the Ridgeview parking structure was mostly empty. The air smelled like oil and stale rain. The city's lights blinked below like a distant machine. I parked near the far edge. I stood by my car, hands in my jacket pockets, looking like I was waiting for a ride. Grant's SUV rolled in, tires whispering on concrete. He parked 2 spaces away, too close for comfort, like he was trying to reclaim space. He got out slow. Okay, he said. What is this? I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch. I let the garage echo our breaths. Do you know what your biggest mistake was? I asked. Grant snorted. Marrying her? That was the first thing that felt like a real fight. Not fists, words with teeth. No, I said, thinking I was too nice to notice. Grant stepped closer. Look, man, I didn't plan. Yes, you did, I said. His eyes flicked. He swallowed. I pulled the legal report from my pocket and held it out. This is real, I said. This is court grade, not a cute app. Grant stared at it like it was radioactive. She's my daughter, too, he said, and the way he said it, like a claim, like a prize, made something sharp move in my chest. She's mine, I said. You're a detail, a problem, a man who used my family like a playground. Grant's face hardened. You don't get to talk to me like... He stepped toward me fast, shoulders squared, trying to make it physical. I didn't swing, I didn't shove, I just moved. One step sideways, one step back. Enough to let him feel silly for charging at empty air. He stopped, breathing hard, and realized something. I wasn't here to trade punches. I was here to make him feel small. I'm not going to hurt you, I said. I don't need to. He laughed, shaky. Then what? You're going to cry? You're going to tell everyone? You already did. I nodded. That was the start. Grant's eyes narrowed. What else is there? I looked at him for a long moment. I know the timeline, I said. His mouth twitched. You don't know anything. Aunt Rita remembers Mara in a sundress at Mom's barbecue, I said, before I even asked her out. Grant went still. So, I said, either you two were just friends then too, or this has been happening longer than you let me believe. Grant's hands clenched. He took a step back and looked over the edge of the garage, like he was checking how far down the world was. Ethan, he said, voice low now, don't do this. Don't do what? I asked. Say it out loud? He didn't answer. I took out my phone and opened a folder of photos I'd taken over the past week, not from spying, from noticing. Mara's overnight bag in the trunk when she said she was going to her mom's, the same hotel key sleeve in her coat pocket twice, receipts she'd forgotten to throw away. I held the phone up so Grant could see. You left breadcrumbs, I said. Not because you're stupid. Because you got comfortable. Grant's throat bobbed. What do you want? He asked again, softer. I leaned in just a little. I want you to sign an affidavit, I said. A statement of paternity. A statement of the timeline. Not for the court, for the truth. Grant's laugh was short and harsh. No. Then I want something else, I said. Grant's eyes sharpened. What? I pointed to his SUV. That vehicle, I said. It's leased through your company, right? Grant blinked. What? You love appearances, I said. You love being the guy with the clean ride and the clean life. Grant's nostrils flared. Don't. I walked to the passenger side and opened the door. He lunged, but I was quicker. I reached into the glove box and pulled out a folder. Grant froze. Put that back. The folder had papers, contracts, a brochure for a new development site, a grand opening event for the following week. I flipped it open and read the name of the investors. Then I looked at Grant and smiled. Okay, I said. Now I know where to end this. Grant stepped toward me again, panic cracking his posture. You can't, he said. You can't touch my work. You touched my family, I said. A sound came from the stairwell. Footsteps. Mara. Of course she came. Of course she couldn't let a scene happen without her. She walked onto the top level like she owned the concrete. Get away from his car, she snapped. Grant looked relieved to see her like she was a shield. Mara's eyes locked on mine. You're acting crazy, I laughed softly. No, I said. I'm acting awake. Mara's voice rose. Give him his stuff. This is ridiculous. We'll talk at home. We don't have a home, I said. Not a shared one. She stepped closer, jaw tight. You're not taking my daughter. I'm not taking her, I said. I'm keeping her. Grant reached for my arm. I caught his wrist, twisted just enough to make him stop, not enough to injure. He sucked in air. Mara stared at our hands like she couldn't believe I'd touched him. I released him. "Next week," I said to both of them, "you're going to feel what it's like to have a room turn cold when you walk into it." Then I walked away first. The next morning, Mara tried a different mask. She made pancakes. She wore my favorite sweater. She called me babe like it was a reset button. "We can fix this," she said, sliding a plate toward me. I poured coffee and didn't touch the pancakes. "I filed," I said. She blinked, slow. "You filed what?" "The divorce," I said, "and a temporary order for exclusive use of the house." Her fork clinked against the plate. "You can't do that." "I already did," I said. She laughed, too loud. "Ethan, you don't have the money for a war." I looked at her. "You think this is a war? This is paperwork." Mara's smile slipped. "You're not being fair." Fair. Like fairness was something you could demand after you'd poisoned the water. "My lawyer will contact yours," I said. Mara's eyes filled with tears so quickly it would have been impressive if I didn't know it was a skill. "You're going to destroy me," she whispered. "You did that," I said. "You just didn't know it yet." She stood up abruptly, chair scraping. "Grant told me you threatened him." "I invited him to talk," I said. Mara's face hardened. "You don't get to punish him." I nodded. "Watch me." She stormed upstairs. A door slammed. Our daughter walked in, rubbing her eyes, hair wild. "Why is Mommy mad?" "Because grown-ups make mistakes," I said, lifting her into my arms. "And sometimes they don't like the consequences. That week, I did everything the clean way. I didn't slash tires. I didn't break windows. I didn't send anonymous messages. I didn't do anything that would end with cops at my door. Instead, I used the thing Mara and Grant hated most: visibility. Grant's grand opening was for a small development he'd been bragging about for months. A community project, he'd called it. New townhomes. Investor-backed. Local press invited. Mara had been helping with the PR because she couldn't resist a stage. I arrived early, wearing a plain jacket, blending in like a man who delivered boxes. I didn't bring a weapon. I brought a folder. Laura Finch had prepared a packet: the paternity report, a sworn statement from me, a request for Grant to establish paternity in court, and a letter that said, plainly, that he was being named in a legal action. Not criminal, not scandalous in a headline way. Just real. I watched Grant greet people with that bright grin, shaking hands, acting like his life wasn't cracking. Mara floated near him, smiling at donors, touching his arm like it was normal. Then the local journalist showed up, a young guy with a camera and a community news badge. Mara leaned in to charm him. I watched her lips move, her laugh land, her eyes shine. She was good. She'd built her whole life on being good. I waited until Grant stepped away from Mara and walked toward the stage area. Then I approached him from the side. "Grant," I said. He turned, grin ready, then saw me and the grin collapsed. "Not now," he hissed. "Yes," I said. "Now." He looked around. Cameras, donors, his business partner, a broad-shouldered man in a navy suit watching. Grant lowered his voice. "You're going to cause a scene." "No," I said. "I'm going to give you documents." I held out the packet. He didn't take it, so I turned and handed it to his business partner instead. "Who are you?" the partner asked, polite but wary. "I'm Ethan," I said. "Family." Grant's eyes went wide. "Don't." The partner opened the packet. He scanned the top page. His face changed in a way that made my stomach settle, satisfied and sick at the same time. "Grant," the partner said slowly. "What is this?" Mara saw the shift and hurried over, smile sharp. "Hi," she said to the partner, voice sweet. "I'm Mara, the consultant. There's been a misunderstanding." The partner looked at her, then at the paper, then back at her. "A misunderstanding," he repeated, like he was tasting the word and not liking it. Grant reached for the packet. The partner pulled it back. "You didn't tell me you had legal issues," the partner said. "It's not," Grant started. Mara cut in, quick. "This is personal. This is private. This man is unstable." The partner's eyes flicked to me. "Is that true?" I shrugged. "I'm stable enough to manage a warehouse at night," I said. "Stable enough to raise a kid. Stable enough to read a report." Mara's cheeks flushed. "Stop talking." I leaned closer, only to her. "You wanted secrets," I said softly. "This is what happens when secrets meet daylight." Grant's hand grabbed my elbow. "Get out." I pulled free, calm. Then the journalist's camera flashed. Not on purpose, just because the journalist saw tension and did what cameras do. Mara noticed. Her eyes darted to the camera like it was a snake. "Turn that off," she snapped. The journalist hesitated. The partner frowned. "Why?" he asked Mara. Mara's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Because the story was already escaping her. I stepped back and let them fight each other. That was the first strike. It didn't look like a punch. It looked like paperwork. But it landed. Mara came home that night furious. She didn't yell at first. She paced the living room like a caged animal, phone pressed to her ear, whispering to someone about damage control. When she finally faced me, her eyes were bright with the kind of anger that comes from losing control of the story. "You humiliated me," she said. "I corrected you," I said. "You ruined my job," she said. "I told the truth," I said. Mara lunged and shoved my chest. "You think you're some hero now?" I didn't move. That was the moment I felt it, the shift inside me. Not rage, not grief. A clean click, like a lock turning. I wasn't trying to win her back. I wasn't trying to be understood. I was trying to finish. "You can scream," I said, "or you can pack." Mara laughed, sharp. "Pack where?" I pulled out the temporary order Laura had filed. It wasn't final, but it was enough to make the house mine for now. Enough to keep our daughter stable. Enough to keep Mara from playing the "I'll take her and disappear" game. "I'm not throwing you out," I said. "The court is." Mara snatched the paper and read it, lips moving. Her hand started shaking. "This is insane," she whispered. "You can't do this." "I can," I said. And I did. She looked up at me, and for the first time in our marriage, she looked at me like I was capable of harm. Not physical harm, worse, the kind that sticks. "You're not the man I married," she said. I nodded. "You're right." She slapped me then, harder this time. My cheek stung. Our daughter's bedroom door creaked, small footsteps, a sleepy voice. "Mommy?" she called. Mara froze. I lowered my voice. "Not in front of her," I said. Mara's breath came fast. Then she grabbed her purse, grabbed her keys, and walked out. She didn't kiss our daughter goodnight. She didn't even look back. I stood in the doorway and watched her taillights vanish. Then I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I felt calm. 2 days later, Grant called me, not texted. Called. That alone told me something had broken. "Ethan," he said, voice strained. "We need to talk." "We already did," I said. "No," he said. "Private. No lawyers. Just talk." I almost laughed. "You want a clean conversation now?" I asked. "Please," he said. "You're going to ruin everything." "I'm not," I said. "You are." There was a pause. Then he said the line that proved he still didn't understand. "She wasn't happy with you." I didn't answer right away. I pictured Mara's smile, practiced. I pictured Grant's hand on my shoulder, friendly and heavy. I pictured my mother hugging Mara first. Then I said, "Where?" Grant hesitated. "There's a place off the highway, old diner. It'll be quiet." "Send the address," I said, "and bring the affidavit, the one you said no to." Grant exhaled like he'd won something. "Okay." He didn't send the affidavit. He didn't send the address either. Instead, he sent a single message: meet me at the site, the development site. The place where investors had started asking questions after my packet landed. I drove there after my shift, the city dark and damp, streetlights making everything look like a memory. The site was fenced off. Portable offices, piles of lumber, a half-built row of frames reaching into the night like ribs. Grant's SUV was there. So was Mara's car. Of course. I parked outside the fence and sat for a second, hands on the wheel. The quiet wasn't peaceful, it was holding its breath. I got out. The chain-link gate was half open, like someone had hurried. I walked in. I heard voices near the portable office. Mara's voice, sharp. Grant's, low and pleading. "You said you had it handled," Mara snapped. "I didn't think he'd go public," Grant said. "He's doing this to punish me," Mara said. "He's obsessed." Grant said something I couldn't hear. Mara laughed, bitter. Then I stepped around the corner. Both of them turned like I'd flicked a light switch. Mara's face changed fast. Anger to shock to something like disgust. Grant's face went pale again. "You," Mara said. "Me," I said. Grant lifted his hands like he was calming a dog. "Ethan, listen." "No," I said. "You listen." Mara started forward. "Why are you here?" "You invited me," I said, holding up his message. Grant's eyes flicked. He looked trapped. I walked toward them slowly, making sure my footsteps were loud on the gravel, making sure they heard the approach. "You're not taking my daughter," Mara said, voice shaking now. "I already did," I said. "Legally, temporarily, and soon, permanently." Mara's eyes flashed. "She's my child." "She is," I said, "and that's why you should have protected her instead of using her." Grant's jaw tightened. "Stop acting righteous." I looked at him. "Righteous? No, I'm practical." Grant stepped toward me, shoulders squared again, the old attempt at dominance. "You can't just walk in here and—" I moved quick, grabbed his shirt collar, and shoved him back against the portable office wall. Not hard enough to injure, hard enough to make a sound, hard enough to make Mara gasp. Grant's eyes went wide. I leaned in close. "This is the only time I'm going to touch you," I said. "So pay attention." Grant swallowed. "You're going to sign the affidavit," I said. "Tonight." "I'm not—" he started. I tightened my grip just a little. He stopped. Mara cried out, "Ethan, let him go!" I released Grant. He sagged, rubbing his chest like I'd hit him. I hadn't. Not really. Mara stared at me like she didn't recognize me at all. Good, I thought. Because the version of me she married was built to be used. Grant coughed. "You're insane." I smiled. If I was insane, this would be loud, this would be messy, this would be easy for you. Grant stared. "What do you want?" Mara whispered again, the same question she'd asked before, but now it sounded like she was asking a stranger in a dark alley. I pointed at the office door. "Inside," I said. "There's a table, there's paper, there's a pen." Grant shook his head. "My lawyer. Your lawyer will love this," I said. "It's clean. It's the truth. And it keeps you from lying later." Mara's hands shook. "Grant, don't." Grant looked at her, desperate. "Mara." She stared back like she was calculating. That was my favorite part. Seeing them try to decide who would sacrifice who first. Grant moved toward the door. Mara grabbed his sleeve. "No," she said. "If you sign, you admit everything." Grant yanked his sleeve back. "You told me you'd handle him." Mara's eyes went hard. "Because you promised you'd never let it come out." Grant laughed, sharp. "It came out because you threatened him. You got cocky." Mara flinched. The words hit her because they were true. I watched them tear at each other, and something in me warmed. Not joy, not exactly. Satisfaction. The kind you feel when a machine finally breaks where you knew it was weak. Mara spun toward me. "You're enjoying this?" I nodded. "Yes." She looked like I'd slapped her. Grant pushed past her and went inside the office. Mara hesitated, then followed, like she couldn't stand to be left out of the scene. I went last. The portable office smelled like sawdust and stale coffee. A folding table sat in the center with a stack of brochures. Grant's laptop was open, spreadsheets glowing. On the wall behind the table was a big rendering of the future townhomes, bright and happy and fake. Grant sat down hard like his knees had given up. Mara stood behind him, arms crossed, lips pressed so tight they went pale. I placed a new folder on the table. This one was thicker. Grant's eyes narrowed. "What's that?" "Everything," I said. I opened it and slid out pages. A timeline, built from receipts and dates and Aunt Rita's memory. Printed messages Mara had left on our home computer because she'd signed into her email once and never logged out. A statement from the lab. A draft of the affidavit for Grant to sign. Mara's eyes widened at the printed messages. "How did you left it open," I said. Grant stared at the timeline page like it was a crime scene photo. "You were with her before me," I said to him. "Before the first date you pretended was the beginning." Grant swallowed. His voice came out small. "It wasn't like that." Mara snapped, "Don't you dare!" I held up a hand. Not to silence her, to show her the power had moved. "I'm not here to hear your version," I said. "I'm here to finish mine." Grant's hands trembled as he picked up the pen. Mara leaned in. "Grant, don't sign." Grant looked at her. "What do you want me to do?" He already gave it to my partner. The investors are asking questions. My life is on fire. Mara's eyes flicked to me. "You did this." I nodded. "Yes." She shook her head, hair swishing like a whip. "You're a monster." That word should have hurt. It didn't. "Maybe," I said. "But you built me out of leftover parts.